assigning students homework on weekends and breaks conditions them to accept work-life boundary violations and
Yes, but hear me out. Assigning students homework on work nights where they're working 4, 5, 6 hours after school, working from 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9 to finish your homework is also training them to violate their work-life balance. And we should stop doing that and only assign work that can be completed during the 8-hour workday that they have at school.
Anyone who grew up in the early thousands and have body image issues because of it, do you remember how we were made to believe that she was fat? That she was the Duff, the fat funny friend? I saw this picture and it like immediately came flooding back to me that like when I thought of Ugly Betty or any of the movies or shows that America Ferrera was in, that she was sold as like the fat friend. Take another look. This is a real eye-opening experience for me. I have to do like a deep dive on like other celebrities that we were told were fat and probably were not even close to being like mid-size. God, it's no wonder that we have so much trauma from the early thousands. I would kill to have the representation that young people have now, because what was that?
Road, so to speak, pussy you sour. Never giving credit where it's due, cause you don't like pussy in power. Venom.
So apparently there's been a schism in the radfem community recently, at least on Twitter. If you're familiar with the term gender critical, you know it's a term that many TERFs use to describe their politics, as a way to say they're critical of the gender politics that they think all trans people subscribe to. I've talked about why this is bogus in another video. Anyway, when I was in the TERF community around 2015, many if not all transphobic radical feminists used gender critical to describe themselves. In fact, they preferred that term because they thought that TERF was a slur. But recently, there has been apparently a separation between transphobes who call themselves gender critical and transphobes who call themselves radical feminists. From what I can tell, this is because the radical feminists think that the gender critical people are being a bit too mean to trans people. Apparently, TERFs think that they should be a little bit nicer to trans men and assimilated trans women. But the gender criticals aren't having it because they want to stay true to the transphobic tradition. So that explains why I've gotten some comments that have been like, you're not talking about TERFs, you're talking about gender criticals. But the separation changes nothing. They both have the same fundamental beliefs, that trans rights activists are harming cis women with their gender ideology or whatever. Who cares if these radical feminists are a little less vitriolic towards trans men and passing trans women? Their reason for being so is still rooted in transphobia. To them, trans men are just women who are trying to escape oppression, and only passing trans women are deserving of their sympathy. These transphobic radfems think you can have some sort of middle ground, where you could share the same transphobic beliefs as the gender criticals but not be a bigot. Like, nope. Same transphobic ignorance, different label. There's no weaseling your way out of accountability.
They brainwashed you. Really?
The leftist stick figure literally has Google on its right elbow. Y'all don't like Google? For real? That's why you never have source. You know what? It checks.
Oh my god, all I see on my fucking For You pages are fucking 21-year-old leftist radfems pissed off that Hassan went to a fucking brothel. And those same fucking radfems are talking over sex workers! Sex workers for fucking decades have literally been asking for rights instead of rescue, but we don't have a fucking voice in legislation or community or even an online fucking discourse because there's benefit in them talking over us. Shut the fuck up! Talking over sex workers gets them killed. Stop! Do something to uplift a fucking sex worker today. Do fucking something to uplift a sex worker today.
What the hell could be the difference between you and me? The difference is, I'm not mid.
Alright, this one's for dudes. So if you're a man, listen up. Your anger is misplaced. Once again, I'm going to remind you that feminism is not about hating men. It's about patriarchy and dismantling its toxic norms. Toxic norms that hurt you as well. You think the things that you're struggling from because you're a man comes from feminism? No, they come from patriarchy. For example, some of you love to talk about men's mental health and how no one cares about it. That's a direct result of toxic norms of patriarchy telling men that vulnerability and emotions are weaknesses. Some of you talk about how no one cares about men when they're sexually assaulted. That's a direct result of patriarchy's toxic gender norms that paint and socially condition men to be obsessed with sex. In return, no one takes it seriously because they think sex is a gift for men. Some of you talk about body shaming with men and body dysmorphia. That's a direct result of patriarchy setting the beauty standards for men. What is outside of it is shamed. I am fully aware that some of you are going to tell me, but Cam, women are the ones who are shaming me. And let me remind you, toxicity is not a gender-specific thing. Patriarchy indoctrinates all of us. Women are not exempt from this. So when they shame you for not fitting the standards of patriarchy and the toxic gender norms, that is a direct result of patriarchy. The toxic gender norms, those expectations put on us by patriarchy. There is a lot more to say about this, but in short, if you're bothered by any of those things, but you're complaining about women and feminism, your anger is misplaced. If you want to get rid of those things, you need to be feminists and get rid of patriarchy.
Okay, what's something that's not a cult but seems like a cult?
Holy shit, TERFs are a cult. I dated one for 4 years, which is how I know this, but I'm not going to get into that. We're going to get into why TERFs are a cult. And it's really in the way that they indoctrinate people because they use empathy and trauma. They use the trauma of womanhood under the patriarchy and all of the things that cis women suffer through them to get you to relate to them. And then they frame trans women as the aggressor, as someone who's trying to get into those spaces that women use to heal from their trauma. And once they frame that and they get you into it, that's when they invite you into the community. You get into all these Facebook groups and Twitter, and because TERFs are so stigmatized outside of the TERF community, they basically isolate you until like TERFs are your only friends, TERFs are your only sources of information and activism, and you're basically alone. So yeah, that's why TERFs are a cult.
One of the most important things for women is understanding that even though you're the queen, you're still the king's wife. Your value is in the ability to keep a high value man. I'm sorry that you don't like.
Well. Isn't it evident that patriarchal and misogynistic values have the fragile masculinities of men in a chokehold? The insidious obsessions that toxic men have with limiting the autonomies, liberties, and self-determinations of women will never fail to show how demonically some men think. You know why I find this so insidious and horrifying aside from patriarchy and misogyny? And it's because men who embody these ideologies will continue to completely leech off of the physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual resources / labors provided by women, all while they continue to have dehumanizing beliefs regarding the worth of women. The fact that he goes on to say, "I'm sorry you don't like that, but that's how the world looks at it." What world are you living in, Mr. Patriarch? Is it the insidiously fantasized one inside your head? Because considering contemporary realities, women absolutely body men. It's unfortunate that a woman had to go through relentless / exhaustive labor of birthing you only for you to come out thinking it's us women who owe you something. And in this reality, toxic men need it pinned inside their heads that women don't want or need insidious leeches like you. Women don't need men, period. So we will not be sorry to continue stomping on men who marginalize women.
I know this comment is coming from a misogynistic man, but I'm not even going to disagree because you're literally right. I've admitted to how the patriarchy negatively affects my day-to-day actions. One of the greatest things that intersectional feminism has allowed me to admit to myself is how I do wear makeup to appeal to the male gaze. I do wear makeup because I'm insecure and because I want to fit the beauty standard more. I know there's nothing creative or artistic about me wearing concealer. There are billion-dollar industries built off of the idea that women will never be good enough in our natural state. Okay? We get it. Women know that we are more appealing to other people with makeup on. Black women know that you cannot stand our natural hair. We get it. You don't have to be constantly belittling us for wearing makeup when we live in a society where our worth is determined by how attractive we are to men.
About with a whole bunch of white people like that, just not my thing. I'm so sorry.
You can learn every single thing you need to know about white women from this documentary. If you're a white woman and you're struggling to see how you are both victim and perpetrator, this thing has it all. Inauthentic girl boss feminism, rooted in internalized misogyny and patriarchy, emotional exploitation, unpaid emotional and physical labor, aka a side hustle, predatory business practices, completely fucked up messages about taking care of your family, putting your family first, and this is the way to do it. I want to officially rebrand this type of documentary as a cringe binge. And I love Shay, I love her input, because she's like the only one who saw it for what it was. There were tens of thousands of women at these conventions, essentially paying for friends, being convinced that this is the community of support that they needed. I can't get over it. I'm thinking of making a whole series. Just imagine if we put all of that effort towards social change.